Hi, everybody. Welcome back to our Get More Yeses training part 2. My name is Josephine Hanna, but you can call me Jose. I'm the founder of Promote Her Business, where it is our mission to promote your business and each other. Say it with me now. Online, offline, all the time. And I am so excited to continue this Get More Yeses training. We're specifically talking about the 14 ways to get more yeses in the next 30 days. It was so exciting at our luncheon as community. We made a commitment to together declare that we are all about getting more yeses than we ever have in the next 30 days. And I think that is so exciting. I don't know what other communities or networking groups or women's organizations are doing this. I've never been a part of any of them. So what we're doing, we are trailblazers, driven, supportive trailblazers for a reason. We have the reputation. It's because we earn it. And we're constantly challenging our community to, as community, take things a step farther, go out on that ledge for ourselves and each other to get more business than ever before and shine the brightest spotlight on women entrepreneurs and our awesome male allies throughout the year. So I'm just really excited, wanted to give everybody a shout out who took on the challenge of getting more yeses than ever before. And if this is part 2 of this training, if you missed part 1, you can go back and listen to it. Do go back and listen to it. I would say it's mandatory listening because I am sharing with you my personal playbook. These are the tips and tricks that have made me successful in getting more yeses in terms of consistently filling rooms, in terms of being the highest referrer across many different networking and leads groups that I've been a part of, in terms of doing really awesome things with philanthropy and getting amazing speakers and some of the most seasoned, successful, generous entrepreneurs in all of Silicon Valley to participate with our community. So in a nutshell, it comes down to these 14 ways. Definitely go back to part 1 if you haven't seen it and listen, but it is not required for you to be able to continue participating in this training. You can still, go back and listen and get a lot of value from hearing what I'm saying right now as I'm saying it. Now, the one thing I do want you to do is make sure that you have your action plan open. And I'm going to share my screen. You might be like, what the heck is she talking about? My Get More Yeses action plan. And it looks like this. It was also at the top of the status update about this video. So you should see it in the status update, just the direct link that says 14 ways to get more yeses in 30 days, which this really cute banner, right? As members, we definitely want to pay attention to how we're presenting our personal brand, which also affects, who's attracted to us. And I do want to give Avni a shout out for one of my favorite pictures, which is this one. It's a more personal shot of me kind of looking down at it brings your eye to the next thing on this form. So thank you, Avni, for doing my portrait photography. And what we're going to do is we're going to continue on this form. And what's so cool with this form is you can save it for later, or you can directly submit the form. So you can go back to where you left off. If you were in part 1, you want to continue. Or if you're in part 2, once again, you can also save it for later. Just put X's in the boxes. The only thing that you definitely need to do is put your email down, because you will get automatically emailed a copy of this form to you so that you can then easily save it. Okay? So now what we're going to do is I'm going to start by reviewing what we talked about, because I think it's really important to remember where we left off and get back in that energy of doing the most successful best practices, right? And learning from each other. These are 14 ways that have worked best for me over the past decade, but it doesn't mean there aren't other ones. This is not like the only exclusive list of everything you could ever do in your lifetime. This is just what has worked best for Joe's. And another challenge I'd make to the community is we are a learning, growing community. The way that we learn and grow is by sharing best practices. You're going to come up with other ways that work really great for you, or fine tune even the ways that I'm recommending. And then, let us know what they are so that we can continually be like, oh, that worked really well for you. Let me try it out in what I'm doing. And we can all continue to grow and learn and teach each other. That's the benefit of being in community versus just being alone. Just because you're in business for yourself, you're not by yourself. And use that, leverage that, and also make a difference for others by actively sharing what's working. Okay. Huge point. All right. So what did we talk about? This is going to be just a really quick reminder for everybody. We talked about number one, inviting people anyway. People have enough of their own excuses. You don't need to add any more excuses to the list, right? You don't need to be like, well, I can't invite them because it's too far, or they'll think it's too much money. No, address what they really say, not what's in your made up land, right? And nobody is out of your league. And I really want to give a shout out to somebody who said after hearing part one, she is now going to invite this amazing person to be a guest speaker at one of her events, because nobody is out of your league and we want to hear how that goes. You know who I'm talking to. So good job. I want to put a shout out there for you. The second thing that we talked about was getting personal. Everyone say it with me, getting personal, right? Which is so important. You can have a template, right? You can kind of have a general template of information for events that are coming up, or programs or products. But in addition to that, you want to, the next step is to make people feel like they're important. You're not just saying this to everybody, but you're customizing it to them. And the more they feel like the message is to them, the more they listen to it, the more they pay attention to it, the more they feel bad about ignoring it, right? And the more likely they are to actually accept it when they feel like you're talking to them, not just to everyone. So what's really important, I'm going to emphasize this even a little bit more than I did on our last training, is one, the question came up is, can you still have a general script? So let's say I'm inviting people to our next Promote Her Business event, which of course we all want to invite more people to our Promote Her Business events, right? Because the more people we invite, the more people we have in the room as potential promotion partners and friends, and the brighter spotlight we can shine on new women entrepreneurs and male allies, right? So let's say that I'm going to go ahead and invite, people to promote her business. Now I can have a general script. Okay. So I could have something that says, our next event is, let's just say, Fourth Wednesday luncheons as an example. So I could have a general script that I put together that's, we meet fourth Wednesday, 11:30 to 1:30, PY, the delicious PY Kitchen in Campbell, right? And we have our luncheon and awesome business roundtable. So that could be kind of the general template that I use every time. I could even copy and paste that. But where the personalization comes in is the reason why I'm inviting you, right? So you want to be working on your customized reason why. So you're working smarter, not harder by having this template, but on the same note, then personalizing just a piece of it so that it rings true for the person. So I might be inviting Rose Vera. I don't know why I would invite Rose Vera since she's already a member, but let's just pretend like I'm inviting Rose Vera to come to, and she's our Healthy Her director, as everyone knows, to a PHB event. And, I'm saying, well, Rose Vera, I know you love health and wellness, and as much as PHB is about marketing and sales, we also are a community that believes healthy women have healthy businesses. I bet you didn't know that, when you first heard promote her business, you might not have thought health and wellness, but that's actually something we do care about. You want to come out? I know you said you were looking for a networking group, and we also care about, health and wellness. Here's the information, copy and paste, right? So I just personalized it. So you want to do that for yourself. Be constantly thinking of how you can work smarter, not harder. And at the same time, give yourself that space to personalize. So great question about, scripts versus creating from scratch. The third thing we talked about last time was going with the flow. And going with the flow means going with the flow of what's going on in the world, right? Using what's going on, holidays, birthdays, world events, movies, whatever's going on in the world to propel, not compete with whatever you're doing. If Star Wars just came out, and I'm doing marketing strategy with people, I might want to say, well, everybody's in Star Wars mode anyway. May the marketing force be with you, right? So you want to go with the flow and pay attention to what's going on in the world, and then leverage the fact that we'll get in front of people more because it's currently what's trending, right? The other thing that we talked about with going with the flow as a review, and once again, I went a lot deeper on this in actual part 1, but I want to remind you of it because the more you hear it, the more likely you are to do something with it too, right? The other thing to remember about going with the flow is also going with the flow of conversation. And we practiced this at our 4th Wednesday roundtable. It was like one of the most powerful thing, actually role playing. If you missed it, oh my gosh, you cannot skip 4th Wednesday roundtables. It was really, really powerful. And so what the biggest takeaway is, is to go with the flow of the conversation. One thing that we did is we had the person who was the tester test out, what they were selling and why it was beneficial. And then the group actually interacted with them, and they had to just listen and take notes and couldn't even respond. They just had to sit there and go with the flow of the conversation and where the group led it, not just where they always wanted to take everything, right? And so I want you to start to get in the practice of that, really listening for what's interesting to others, not just what you want to emphasize or what's interesting to you, okay? So I want you to be actively doing this every time you go to an event. Start paying attention, less to what your script is and more to what people want to hear about you and having conversations on that. Number 5 was go for the low-hanging fruit, which once again is low-hanging fruit means people that are ripe and easy to reach, right? People that are ripe for your products and services that would be more of a natural yes, right? So you want to have your top 10 list in front of you or write down those names of the top 10. And I gave you on the other training how to figure out who those top 10 are. Number 5 was increasing your odds. And for this one, I just want to play up, remember, hybrid approach. The more ways you contact people, the more likely they are to buy and remember you. So at PHB, we are a hybrid organization. We do things online, offline, all the time, right? And so I highly recommend that you try it out in your own business, right? You see people at live events, but in addition to that, you're also active online. We have our Rock Your Week calls. We have our end of the month call coming up tomorrow, right? Like the more people see you, the more people know you, the more likely they are to buy from you. So don't just leverage the in-person, complement it with having more people get to know you online in our community. Be like, hey, request things, support people, like things, have people remember you online and in person. And then when they see you in person, they're like, oh yeah, you're the person that said this to me online. And then when they're online, they're like, oh yeah, you're the person that said this at the live event. For example, Rahat gave this awesome tip. He talked, Rosevera was talking about morning rituals at our 4th Wednesday roundtable this week. And Rahat said, one thing for her is she believes that how you start the day sets the tone for the rest of, your day. And so, now everybody's thinking about morning rituals, and that's staying with us that she said it, at the event. And now, I'm putting it online and reinforcing it, right? So now you're probably twice as likely to actually pay attention to morning rituals, because it wasn't just a one-time thing, and it just wasn't live. It's being reinforced, right? In different ways. And so I want you to be thinking about you doing that too, right? Okay, another point is to make it a game, right? We talked about last time making it a game. I'm not going to go through all the components of the game, but I am going to say that this is probably one of the key things, really, that will create a context in which you want to play, you want to do more of what you need to do, and you can make numbers and tracking fun. If you have trouble tracking and documenting and looking at your conversions and you're like when you gamify things and you have your team gamify things, it unites your team quicker. And also, as a solopreneur, even if you have nobody on your team, you just making something into a game can forever make a difference on what you're doing, your attitude around it, the energy you have around it, and the results you're getting. So please go back, listen to the make it a game part. I went through every single component you need to take what you're doing from a concept and some boring business activities to really creating the system that's fun for, your lifetime of business, and helping you create that system, that fun gamified system for your team as well. Woo! So I got you all caught up. And also, I'm hoping that it triggered you to remember what you thought you were going to do last time, and then you got distracted, and now you're like, oh yeah, now I have to reach out to one of those people on my top 10 list, or oh yeah, that game idea was really cool, but now I got to remember to tell my team about it, or help them help me strategize about it, right? So that's really important. So we're going to move on to increase accountability. So this is the beginning of part 2. Woo, woo, woo. Right? And in terms of increasing accountability, this is really queen. Accountability is queen. It sounds simple, and simple is sometimes the biggest thing that can make you money. Like, I'm just going to say that you don't need the most convoluted, complex, technical thing to really get you what you need. What you need is just something that's going to be able to have you consistently get more yeses. And consistently, when I say consistently, this is where accountability comes in. It's giving yourself the time you need to build the habit of getting yeses and getting in the right activities consistently, so that you are able to then be able to predictably, reliably have money coming in, right? Sales coming in, having yeses coming in, right? But it takes time to get in a rhythm. And if you don't have an accountability structure to get you in that rhythm, then you're just going to be up and down, roller coaster, can't count on, consistently getting what you want, because there's no way to build that habit, because you don't have that framework. You don't have the accountability structure. So I'm talking kind of theoretically right now, but I want to get into something very, very practical, right? So what's the best way to build more accountability, more personal ownership of what you're doing? The best way that I like to think about it is, I like to think of it, going back to gamification, as a $1 billion game. Okay. I love thinking about it this way. If somebody was going to pay me $1 billion, right? Let's say they said, Jose, if you are able to get 50 people in a room for the next event, I'm going to pay you $1 billion on top of whatever, people are paying to go to this event. Now, what am I going to make sure happens? then I'm going to get 50 people in the room no matter what, right? Like I'm going to do whatever it takes to get 50 people in the room. And I'm going to make sure I'm not like, oh, I forgot that somebody was going to pay me $1 billion. Like it's not going to slip my mind. Why is it not going to slip my mind? Because it's $1 billion. I'm going to do whatever it takes to make sure that I have a system that does not allow me to forget, right? So if you want to get more results, you need to treat what you're doing as your own $1 billion game, right? Like there's big stakes. The higher the stakes, the more likely you are to put systems in place to actually make them happen. If you treat this as a hobby, like, yeah, you can do it whenever. If I make money, I do. If I don't, I don't. Then you won't, right? Like you're not going to make the money you need to make. You want to put some pressure on yourself, right? It's good. It's not a bad thing to put fire under your butt. In fact, it's needed if you want to get more yeses, right? So I want you to start thinking of it as this $1 billion game, right? Are you, feel free to comment or be like, yeah, I get that, or I'm willing to take on that challenge. So how do you increase your accountability? I'm going to give you a few different ways that have really worked for me in the past. And I want you to note in your survey that you're filling out as we go, in your action plan, Get More Yeses action plan, which of these most resonate with you. Okay, so the first way is obviously just to change your thinking about it, right? Like this is not just optional. This is your new $1 billion game. $1 billion are at stake or whatever it is for you. And, I love at stake. So another thing you could do around that is you could even put something at stake. You could be like, okay, I'm going to put $100 at stake. I'm going to, put it in a jar. And when I hit my goals, I'm going to use it to go and buy myself whatever I feel like buying myself, right? So now I have something real to play for. And on the flip side, if I don't do what I'm going to do, then I'm going to, maybe I'm going to donate the $100, or maybe I'm just not going to be able to use the $100, or, so you want to have something at stake and something to lose to keep you accountable, right? To do what you're going to do. The next thing is accountability buddies. So big. It's so important to have people who are going to remind you to do what you do. And this could be a buddy. You can even ask in our PHP community, hey, does anyone want to be my buddy? You keep me accountable. I'll keep you accountable. We set our goals. And it's big. You can also do this with a coach, a consultant, somebody that's going to make sure that they're there for you and constantly reminding you of the big things that you're up to. We need that. I do that for my clients all the time. I can tell you personally, just recently, one of the clients, private clients that I was working with, just by having a conversation with me, it triggered her to remind herself to have 10 more people in the room. And because she had 10 more people in the room attract what? More people in the room. And, people are always like, how many people are coming? It's like this vicious cycle, right? You get 10 more people, it does matter. And so because she had these 10 more people, she got more people to attend the event. And then out of, the people attending, because she had 10 more people, let's say, half of those people converted, and, she easily has another $3,000 in her pocket right now because she was held accountable to what she said she was going to do and just got like a simple reminder from me. I did nothing else. I just kind of reminded her what she was actually up to. Sounds simple. Simple makes you money. Simple reminders, really important with accountability. Another way that and so I just want to go back to that. Like if you're on the fence about hiring a coach, hire them. That would be my personal recommendation. Do your research, make sure they're the right person for you. But in terms of accountability, like having that extra expert that's there, that has your back, that can catch what you're missing, ask you the right questions at the right time, can make all the difference in your business, whoever that is for you, right? So really think about that. On a personal level, I've always had coaches, has made a huge difference in my accountability and reminding me what I'm up to and not get so buried in the weeds. The next thing is public declaration. Making a public declaration is so important. So I want you to say this with me. I say what I do and I do what I say. Everyone together. I say what I do and I do what I say. One more time, even more passion this time. I say what I do and I do what I say, right? That's called integrity. And the thing is, a lot of us, we are as entrepreneurs, we're behind the scenes. We're like, oh, now we don't have a boss asking us on our backs about what are we doing, what we're doing. That's just so great. But on the flip side, there's a reason that your old boss used to ask you. Why? Because it's effective. It's effective, actually, to have your team verbally commit to you what they're up to. It actually is. That's why they do it. So when you lose a boss, you also lose accountability, which means oftentimes you also lose results and activity. So you now have to be the boss to yourself by building in the accountability because you don't have that boss, right? And so you want to find more ways to publicly declare to the world what you're really up to. So the ways that you can do it is, one, leverage our PHP community. Every single week, we have a Rock Your Week call, 8 a.m. Pacific. This is already part of your membership. Leverage your membership every single Monday. This is a way, like I said, just being on a call can get you 10 more people in the room. I'm not promising that. But what I am saying is, as an example, just having the reminder can make the difference in your activity, can make the difference in your results, right? And so you can do that just by jumping on our Rock Your Week calls. It can make all the difference. Or our end of the month call, right, which is coming up this Friday. And you have opportunities in that call to also declare to the community, not just your 3 wins for the week or what you're up to for the month, but you can also tell people what you're promoting. One more way to promote your business. It's crazy if you don't take us up on more ways for the community to get to know you, right? You're sabotaging your business. So do take us up on the added accountability, right? More people see you, more they know you, the more they think of you, and the more you think of yourself, right? That's accountability, right? So you're declaring this not just to them. Who are you declaring that to? Yourself, right? And, even if you are not able to join us live, you go back and listen to the replay, go back, right in the comments field, still make a public declaration, to community. And then you're putting yourself out there. That's the other thing. Human psychology dictates that we like to be liked. We like people to like us and think we're awesome. We don't like to be embarrassed as humans. That's just human psychology. And so we want to leverage our psychology to our advantage. So when we make a public declaration, we could look bad if we don't uphold it. And that's a good thing. It makes us more likely to do stuff as opposed to be like, well, I'm going to let myself off the hook because no one's going to know anyway, right? And that's what makes us weak, and that makes us not do what we need to do. And then the last way I think is important with accountability has worked for me is remembering that activity breeds activity. So I assume no chatter is no action. So for example, in our PHP chapter, we have something we use. It's called Slack. It's great channels for communication, right? And I assume if, people aren't chattering and being like, we're doing this and we're doing this. And oh my gosh, you should see the amazing things that your leadership team is doing behind your back to put every member in a position of success. I mean, it's just amazing. Like I'm getting chills just thinking about it. I mean, these leaders so have your back. They're dedicating their hearts, their energy, their time to make this chapter the best it's ever been. And so when they're doing that, it's like the activity breeds activity, right? Like people hear what other people are doing. It makes them more accountable to what they're doing. They want to do more. So you want to start doing that too, especially if you have a team. What keeps people accountable is seeing that other people are accountable for what they're doing. And they're like, oh, well, look, she's accomplishing a lot. She says what she's going to do, then she does it. Oh my gosh, like I'm also on this team. I don't want to be like a slacker. Like I want to be looked at as another driver of performance. So I'm going to get myself in gear, right? But you only get that when you feel like there's activity going on, right? So you want to encourage, especially if you're running, you're driving your own team, it's like you want them to be actively chattering and that using that chatter as accountability to each other, right? So they don't always just have to report to the leader. Them actually just reporting what they're doing and having everyone see it can inspire them just naturally to do more. Okay, this is like a huge lesson I've learned over the years with teams. Okay, because sometimes leaders feel like, oh man, how many people have to report into me? I have to keep them accountable. You don't need to do that. Just have all of them see what each other is doing. Okay, very cool. The next thing, and that way also allows you not to have your team feel like you're always micromanaging them, and that's different than accountability, right? Totally different. Okay, so we're going to move on to our next tip. Oh, okay, before we do that, actually make sure that you have wrote down once again on your survey which of these ways, sound most appealing to you, right? And you might even want to add your own way. You might be like, oh, Joe said reminders. Oh, that's great. Maybe on my calendar, I need to write the activity I'm doing more often, make it non-negotiable, not move the things that are most likely to move my business forward, and send myself more reminders or put up post-it notes or whatever. So you're going to get ideas as I'm talking. Make sure you're notating that in your Get More Yeses action plan, because some of this is borrowing what ideas you think that you're getting from me, but the other part of this is just you're in a brainstorm mode, right? You're getting ideas as we're going, and that's intentional. And once again, please share those ideas. Don't keep them to yourself. It is, you're doing a disservice to the community if you're not sharing what's working with you. So it's not just about promoting your business, it's about promoting each other, right? And the way that we promote each other is also sharing best practices on how to have it work, right? Okay, so number 8. Oh, I love this one. It's a really good one. Let me show you this. Nope, that's not what I want. Number 8 is to leverage your team. As I said, just because you're in business by yourself, you do not have to be, just because you're in business for yourself doesn't mean you have to be by yourself, right? Like the whole time. You can actually, the sooner you have more people who are on your team, the more people you have to be accountable, not just to, but with, right? The more likely you are to get more done and the more likely you are to succeed. Now, this is not to say you need employees, and this is not to say that, you need to create all this extra work for yourself, but rather thinking about how can you leverage your team and build a team if you don't have one so that you can get more yeses and work smarter, not harder, as opposed to being like, oh my gosh, this is one more thing Joseph's telling me to do. So why do I think team is so important? And especially in our PHP community, we're big believers in our high-powered connectors program. And I'm just going to share, let me just share that with you for a minute. In our high-powered connectors program, and really building a dream team to promote your business and promote each other, right? So what we believe is that, it really helps to have your own dream team of anywhere from 3 to 7 promotion partners. That's what we call them, promotion partners, because the focus is on what? Promoting each other, right? And have these 3 to 7 people lock arms with you over the next year, have a formal agreement with them. And this differs from what's normal with other leads groups or networking groups. And I want to talk about this for a minute because it really has made a difference in my business, having more promotion partners who are promoting me behind my back, who are getting me on more stages, who are helping me learn about new vendor events, who are telling me new ideas for PHP, who are doing co-products, co-interviews, just amazing things with me. And why am I so big on building your own dream team? Well, I'm going to share this. Let me share this story with you. So I believe, success leaves clues. And in 2012, I went to something called the National Achievers Congress. And as you can see on here, this is Robert Kiyosaki. He was one of the speakers, and there was all these millionaires and billionaires, and they were interviewing these millionaires and billionaires and saying, hey, what made you so successful? And if you're a professional development junkie like me, you're like, yeah, I've heard it all before. What makes you successful? And, what gets you more yeses is, courage and perseverance and, eyes rolled back in your head. I got this, right? Well, you know what? I got something new when Robert Kiyosaki said, all those ways are great, but actually the biggest way has not been mentioned yet. And then what he did is he said, I'm not going to tell you, I'm going to show you. And I'm like, he's going to show us like how to be successful, like visually. I was really like curious. And then what he did is he brought up on stage his 6 or 7, what I would call in PHP land, promotion partners. These were people, they were not employees, they were not 1099 contractors. They were people who had the same audience as he did, who he had locked arms with, for many years. And he said these 6 or 7 people had gotten him more business than him, joining another 10 networking groups. And they had done all this stuff together. He had gotten on stages. They got into each other on stages. They've done products. They've went on vacation together. They did passive income stuff. They were doing masterminds. And I can go on and on. They bought each other's daughter's Girl Scout cookies. Okay, I made that up. But like, you get the concept, right? Like they did all this stuff together. And it wasn't just about the breadth of relationships. It was about the depth that he took these relationships. So he went from depending on networking groups or people like, oh, give me a referral if you think of me, to really creating this team that was uber loyal to him. And they were, and each other, right? And they had this commitment. And I just said, well, why aren't more people doing this? A lot of times it's like you go to a group and whoever shows up is who you get as referral partners, whether you like them or not, or you think, oh, I don't really want to work with them. I have this financial advisor that I like much better, but she's not in the group. Oh crap, now I feel guilty. You're still referring people to her. And this just turns it on its head. It's like you are in charge of your networking, right? You're taking the fate of your networking into your own hands, and you're building this dream team that really has your back. It's not like if you think of me, it's like you are proactively creating agreement to think of each other throughout the year. And so that's why I created the High Powered Connectors program so that I could teach you what millionaires and billionaires have been doing for years, the best techniques in cross promotion, so that you can get more yeses through your network and work less on networking and have your network work better for you. Okay, so if you want your network to work better for you and you not just to work on your networking, be like, I want my network to work for me, right? I mean, it's huge. It's huge. So I would say if there's anything you're going to do this year with team, if you haven't done it already, is to get involved with our High Powered Connectors program and really build your dream team. Make this the year you build your dream team of those 3 to 7 people. They're going to lock arms with you all year, and you're just going to do more amazing things than you can even think of at this second by participating in this program, having a formal agreement, and learning, there's over 25 different ways to get more yeses through partnering with each other, and it's a self-paced program. You do it on your own time, e-learning, and then there's a once a month check-in with me. Once a month call just to ask me any questions about how to be a better team, how to run cross promotions better together. So definitely check that out. My team has got me lots of yeses on more stages. It's a must-have, I think, in the lifetime of your business. So really, really look at that approach this year. That's what I would say. Okay, so high-powered connectors, baby. All right, so we talked about team. The other thing that I would say is, in the world of team, a question that came up was, well, you know, when you, Joyce, you were talking about gamification, and this is a really good question, is how do you deal with multiple people, let's say, supporting the same person and becoming a yes? And a lot of times there's systems out there that penalize you for working together. It's like, well, you know, if you both are approaching a person, then, you know, the person that, you know, the first come, you know, gets the person, or, you know, it's not like really a team. It's not really a team approach. It's like, oh crap, she talked to her first. And at PHB, that's not like our spirit. We're about collaboration, not this fierce competition. I mean, you can have friendly competition. That's different than fierce competition. But like, you know, we're also about assisting, you know, going from this idea that I have to do it all myself and the game is me beating everybody else, to like, how as team can we better assist each other? So one thing that you can do in terms of gamifying it is you can still award points to people assisting. Like if you have somebody who, let's say, contacted Jenny about coming to an event you were putting on, okay? And then you also saw Jenny, and, you know, you nudged her a little and were like, hey, are you coming to the event? You know, you were doing, you were also supporting, you know, who initially invited Jenny to come to the event, right? Because you're giving her that extra nudge, and the more nudges she gets, you know, a lot of times the more likely people are to come. And it's cool when you hear from two different people. And on the same note, I don't want to go back and be like, well, I nudged your person. I didn't get any reward for that, so I'm not going to help nudge anybody else's because I'm just going to focus on me. So what you can do is you can still award what I would call assists. You know, that turned you from just competition to collaboration, and, you know, you do what you get rewarded for. Say it with me. You do what you get rewarded for. So I would build into the system something for assists. So maybe I get, you know, 2 points if I was the one that initially invited them, but I get 1 point for helping people, just helping other teammates, you know, with closing whatever they're closing, right? So we all win at different levels of the game, and it puts more incentive for me to support people, right? Great. Okay, so we talked about that. The next thing we're going to talk about is being a stand for your, I'm not going to say man. Everyone always like fills that in as man. No, being a stand for your brand, right? Like that will definitely help you get more yeses as well. And this is so important. We also talked about this at our Here We Grow conference. And when we do a conference at PHB, it's not like we're just doing this conference and you get it and you forget it, right? Like what we do is we pay attention to the messages that we're sending, and then we remind the community as community throughout the year about these themes and important messages, because we're a learning organization that's very intentional about you getting the learning, right? Most places aren't like that. They just, you know, have people that speak, you get it or you don't, whatever. They don't intentionally, you know, build into the year-round curriculum you to continue to get the most important messages, right? So that's a reason I'm proud of our PHB brand, right? As said by a professional training designer, that, you know, that's a reason why one thing I'm really proud of with our brand is we do that, right? We make it into a continual learning organization. And being, you know, being clear on what makes you proud of your brand is great, because it will help you be able to better differentiate what you're doing. The other reason is being a stand for your brand is so important, because people are often going to what I call test you. Okay. They're not doing this. Usually it's not like they're doing this consciously, but they do, you know. I mean, I've done it to people myself, not to throw them, but just because, you know, it's like where I am in my life. I was like on the fence about something. So for example, I'll give you this example that I talked about at conference. Is what happened was, this was a while back. I was like, oh, I wanted to lose some weight. And I was like, I'm interested in losing weight. And then this one person approached me from, we'll just say a shake company. And she said, well, Joe, you should do this program. It's protein shakes. And I was like, yeah, I don't know. I was like, I like to eat real food, and protein shakes don't usually taste that good to me. And, I don't know. I mean, it's going to be really hard for me to just do some protein shake thing for 90 days. And she was like, oh, okay, I got it. It sounds like you're a no. Thank you. And then that was it, right? And then what happened is 2 weeks later, I talked to somebody else. This guy approached me about protein shakes, same company, exactly the same company. And he said to me, initially pretty close, same spiel, you should do these protein shakes, 90 days. I said the same thing I said before. I said, I don't know. I like real food. And I don't know, in the past, I haven't liked the taste of protein shakes. And he was a stand for the brand. He said, look, Joe, he said, these shakes are not just any shakes. You said that it's hard for you to do things that don't taste good, but I want you to know that this is the shake mix that tastes like cake mix. And I was like, ooh, he's like, even, junk food junkie people, this is the kind of program even junk food junkie people, who grew up that way, eating that crap, they can, get on board with this and make their life healthier just by, doing these shakes that taste so good. And I was all like, really? Like, so you have people that taste good and, And because he was a stand for the brand, I ended up doing it, bringing a ton of people on board to have these shakes. And, it spiraled from there, because what would happen, what was the difference between his approach and the woman I talked to was he was a stand for the brand. He didn't just back down right away. He didn't assume my no. He recognized that I was on the fence and there was something that was still keeping me talking to him, right? And he listened, right, to not just he wasn't just on script, but he was able to go with the flow, right, which we talked about, and see what I was interested in, not what he was just interested in telling me. And, he realized, well, what is she getting hung up over? Oh, it's the taste of it. And, ours actually tastes really good. That's a misconception. And he didn't, he just clarified it for me in a non-defensive way. So you have to know when to walk away, but you also need to know when to stand up. And I think a lot of times, especially as women and, in terms of societal context, a lot of times, I hear women say, oh, I don't want to be aggressive. I don't want to be too salesy. But sometimes because you're in that mode and you're so afraid of being salesy that you sit down when you need to stand up, and then you're losing sales, which are the lifeblood of your business, right? So I want you to start intentionally thinking more about how can you be more of a stand for your brand, right? Like, what are the things worth standing for? And especially thinking about standing, not just assuming that people are no the minute they give you the first objection, right? Like listening for what are they really saying? There's a reason they're talking to you, right? What is that? What are they interested in? I'm gonna say that again. What are they interested in? And how can you address that in whatever you're doing? And also, how does that address the concern even that they have, right? So I want you to just take a minute, go ahead and write down, what are you standing for with your brand? Like, what are those things that, you're not going to back down on, that this is awesome. And once again, in a tactful, explanatory way, not like a defensive way, but just as clarification, right? That you're very clear that this does work and you are standing for it, right? You're the expert in those things to stand for. On the flip side, I got a question. I got a question about, well, what was it? What was the question I just got? Good question. It's, when to stand for your brand, but then also, I'm looking. Oh my gosh, I have this. Somebody asked me a really great question, and well, if it will come back to me at some point, then I will tell you. I will tell you what it is with standing for your brand. So in the meantime, I just want you to write down, what is worth standing for. Oh, there we go. I got the question. So the question is not as just what is worth standing for, but what do you do? That was it. Boom, boom, boom. I got it. What do you do when people have a concern and it really is like a weakness in your product or a service? And I thought this was such a great question. Somebody asked me this after the conference, and I was like, oh, the next time I talk about standing for your brand, I really wanted to address this. It was a great question. Is what do you do when they're right? Like, let's say you have tried your protein shakes, and you know what? It doesn't, maybe you personally don't even think they taste that great, but they have so much more, let's say, but there's something that's keeping you in that company anyway, right? There's something you do believe in that you are standing for. So would it be out of integrity? And my opinion on this, you have to do it for yourself, but for me, it would be out of integrity to lie and say, well, Joe, you want something that tastes good, and I think this tastes good if you don't think it tastes good, right? But on the flip side, you also want to be a stand for your brand. So how do you deal with that? So one way you can deal with that is you can acknowledge whatever concern they have is real, right? And not be inauthentic and say, hey, oh, I get it. There are a lot of shakes out there that, that don't taste good. And in fact, there are also shakes out there. We have some competitors that their shakes people say they taste better. Unfortunately, science has shown that even though the shakes taste better, the ingredients aren't as good, aren't as holistic, won't stay in your system as well, or, so sometimes there's a trade-off. So you have to sometimes look at how committed are you to really your goal? Like, how much do you really want to lose weight, Joes? And, if you're going to do it, do you want to just go with something that tastes good, or do you want to go with something that, is more likely to work with your body over time as a woman? I mean, I'm just making this up, right? And I know you're a busy person, so our shake program can help you be accountable every day, and other ones don't give you reminders every day. So, I mean, I addressed it realistically, and I was still a stand for the brand. Does that make sense? So I want you to start thinking about that too, because it's not just saying what you need to say as a point of clarification. I am not recommending that by any means, that you just say whatever it takes to get somebody to say yes. I mean, that is so not in alignment with our PHB culture. It's about being authentic, being real. If something's not working, or you don't really think it's the greatest area of your product or service, being upfront, because if you lie about it, they're going to find out later, and then it's going to hurt you more when they go back and give you a review that said, she said this tasted great, and 5 other people tried it. They didn't think it tasted great anyway. I don't believe she actually believes that. I wouldn't trust her, right? That's going to personally damage you. So please be conscious also of your personal brand in this process and be true to it as well. Okay, so go ahead and make sure that you're writing down what is worth standing for as part of your survey. Number 10, I'm excited about number 10. So we are moving on to number 10 is hand out all marketing materials. I'm going to show you this on the screen. Hand out all marketing materials. You know, you're shooting yourself in the foot when you go through the trouble of getting flyers and brochures, and then you're like, my goal is to hand out at least 20 of them. I'm like, why are you paying for 100 if you're only going to hand out 20 of them, right? Is that really a good marketing investment? If you're paying for 100, even if they make you buy in bulk, you know, to get the discounted price, the reality is, why not play for handing them all out? The more exposure you get, the more people are likely to buy, right? So play to win. Everyone say it with me, play to win. And play genuinely to hand out all your marketing materials. Why not, right? The more people see it, the more likely they are to remember it. You know, the more likely they are to do it. They put it in their purse. You know, you don't know, right? You don't know what they're going to do with it, but it still lives with them, right? And so that's why I say to pass it out. You spent the money on it, play to pass all of them out. The other question that I've got about this is, well, how do you hand them out? Okay, how do you hand them out? And there's two things to say about this. One, in terms of marketing pieces, what I recommend is you hand them out, whatever you're handing out, as if it's gold, okay? Because it is. It is gold. Your products and services are golden, and nobody will treat your marketing material more importantly than you treat it yourself. If you treat it like it's just some worthless flyer that, oh, I'm sorry to bother you, I'm just gonna, you know, here, take this piece of paper. You know, if you get a chance to look at it, just look at it. I mean, I've been handed things like that like so many times. I'm kind of like, dude, I don't have time to just look at stuff. I could barely look at my own stuff, right? You know, I'm going to treat it as important as you do. And you know what? That just diluted your whole brand. So now I'm thinking, well, you don't even think it's that important. Am I really going to make time to sit down with you and have a further explanation of this? In fact, I would actually go as far as to say it's worse to have marketing material and hand it out to people in a way that diminishes your brand because you're not confident in the handing it out. So don't even give out marketing material unless you are willing to treat it as it's golden. Otherwise, it will actually hurt you. Like, people's first impression will then be you're not confident in the brand, and that will make them less likely to say yes, right? which is the opposite of what you want. So whether this is your business card, once again, hand it out as if it's gold. You know, you're not just another one they're going to throw in their purse. It's like, treat it with respect. Set the role model for it. The other question with handing it out is, how do you hand it out? Like, what's the script you should say? And really, I think the best way to do this is not to overthink it, right? Just go with the flow. What I would recommend in this section is just to think of, you know, if you're really stuck and you get really tripped up about how do you approach it, it's just think about the most common, easy, say it with me, easy breezy ways that would just be natural to bring it up. Like, for example, you know, we have 2 live events every month, right, for Promote Her Business. You know, it's such a natural thing. Like, I run into somebody, most of the crowds I hang around in are women and entrepreneurs. That's not a mistake. You know, it's intentional. And so it's really easy. I'm like, oh, you're an entrepreneur? Oh, that's great. Do you go to networking events? Oh, you do? Do you want to hear about other networking events? Another great networking event. Easy breezy. Oh, you're a woman? Oh, you said that one of your big passions is supporting more women. You know, as a coach or a consultant, you said you wanted to specifically support women. Do you have all the women you could ever have, or do you want to meet more women? Oh, you do? Well, I know a group where you can meet more women. Easy, right? Like, I'm just listening, or I'm just leveraging what they're already saying they're doing, right? Or, oh, you said you're frustrated because you don't have all the clients you want. Oh, that's interesting. Have you heard of this organization that it's a marketing and sales training program rolled into a networking group? It's so cool because you not only get marketing and sales training, you also get this awesome tight-knit networking community, right? So like easy. So I just want you to think about like in this section, just write down easy triggers. I would call them trigger phrases, easy things that, you can just say to smoothly transition. You're in health and wellness. This is a no-brainer. Do you do anything with fitness? Oh, great. You're a runner. Oh, that's so awesome. If you ever want to learn other, fitness techniques, come check out my pole fitness new studio that's coming out, or whatever that is for you. Does that make sense? Just keep it easy. The more that you need to get this complex new script that you have to memorize, the less likely you are to do it, the more pressure you're going to put on yourself, the more weird it is, and the less with the flow you'll go. Okay, very important. The next one is number 11, which is playing up FOMO. And you're like, everyone say, go FOMO. Go FOMO. And what go FOMO means is playing up the fear of missing out, FOMO, right? And, this is it's very important because people want to do what other people are doing. I can't even tell you how many times people ask me, well, how many people are going to this thing? If more people are going, they're more likely to go. Now, is it rational? No, not like really, because, there could be, actually, they could get, I'm going to say this is kind of the funny part about it, is people could actually get more value. Let's say I'm putting on a training, okay? And, you say, well, Joe's, how many people are going? And let's say there's 50 people going versus there's 5 people going. A lot of people, especially entrepreneurs, will be like, oh, there's 5 people going. I don't know. It's kind of small, even though it's not even a networking event. It's really a training. It's just like a training to work on your business. Like just the fact that there's 5, it's like, well, I don't know, maybe not enough credibility for me. I don't think I'm going to go. But like the thing that people don't get is if I have 50 people in the room, am I going to give you personally more or less attention? Less. It's not possible for me to give you more attention unless you sit in the front. Do sit in the front, raise your hand, be louder. Why not, right? Like get my attention. If you are in a bigger room, you deserve it. I'm giving you permission. Go for it. But like, honestly, otherwise my attention is diluted, right? So it's actually more in your advantage to be in groups. So when people say like your coach or consultant says a lower number, don't just assume like, oh, bigger numbers are always the way to go. It's not, okay? Also, even networking events, how many people do you really talk to? Is it the quantity of people or the quality of people in the room? I mean, at PHB, we attract the most supportive, driven, trailblazing people, not just anybody. We don't want just anybody in the community just to have another butt in a seat, right? Like that's not our PHB chapter. We go for quality. So I really want you like to pay attention to that. And with that said, once again, there's human psychology. So as much as I'm giving a lesson on that right now for you to, rethink your thinking on that. The other thing is there's the reality that for most people, they are still in that mode that more is better, right? And, they have this. And so if you want to play to that, you can play to this fear of missing out. And so how do you play to the fear of missing out? Well, all these people are going that, there's all these other people going. So they're in, let them draw their own conclusion. They should go too. If they're a high influencer and you say other high influencers are going, that's like a trigger, right? Like now they're like, oh, I'm going to miss out if I don't go because those are the type of people I want to meet. And that's the type of person I am. So now I'm scared that if I don't go out, I'm going to miss out this huge opportunity, right? So I want you to think about for a minute, write down, what would make people afraid to miss your event? Like if they don't go to this event right now, they will actually lose money. They will, lose happiness. They will lose health, whatever it is. Because they didn't capitalize on this, right? What is really going to make them miss out? The other thing that I really like doing too is, one It's, saying in general the types of people that are going that would attract them to go. It's also, if it's on a more personal level, if you know specific people they're also friends with, and you can see on Facebook they're also friends with them, you can be like, oh yeah, I don't know if you knew this or not, but we're both connected to Jenny, and I just talked to Jenny and she's also going to the event. Maybe we can even carpool together. I don't know. But that could be a deal breaker, because now they're afraid, like, oh my gosh, if Jenny's going, it must be good. I mean, I trust Jenny. I wouldn't be a friend with her if I wasn't, and now they're afraid, they're going to miss that opportunity. The other thing that you can do that's effective with fear of missing out is, you can even, if you have people that have already signed up. Now, if you don't, then I wouldn't recommend this. But if you already have people that sign up and they're active in a group that you're in, you can post. You could say, hey, we're really excited about this upcoming event that's coming up. Feel free to comment, why are you looking forward to it, or whatever. And then it generates chatter about that event, and everyone sees how many people are going. And once again, that plays to their fear of missing out, because everyone else is doing it and there's all this chatter, right? So think about that as you're doing it. Number 12. Okay. Number 12 is to repeat Jose's 2 favorite phrases. My 2 favorite phrases are, one is, it's always more fun with friends. It's always more fun with friends. And this can make a big difference. Just saying this phrase. Now, will it have everyone bring more friends? No, it won't. But, even if you had 2 more people bring, 4 more friends, it's probably worth it, right? Because that is marketing. Now, you don't have to do to those people. Those people were currently unreachable to you, not on your list. And just, how hard is it to say it's more fun with friends, right? You never know who people are going to bring just by triggering that. And a lot of times people are so in their own world, they're not bringing friends, not because they don't know people, but just like they didn't even think about it. So you just saying that, putting it out there makes a huge difference. And it really is more fun with friends. You bring friends, you lock arms with them, you become a tighter knit community when you bring friends to PHB, right? We get to know people in your world, we bring our friends, and then we start creating this chapter where the only people in our chapter are these awesome people we want to be around and build this tight knit community with. So remember, it's always more fun with friends. And just start getting that into your languaging. Feel free to write that down. The other one I really like is, can I count you in? Say it with me. Can I count you in? And this is so important, because a lot of times, I can't even tell you, there's a huge difference between informing and inviting. What's the difference between informing and inviting? Well, informing would be, PHB puts on these 2 amazing networking and marketing and sales training events, once a month. And, it's great. We had our last one at PY Kitchen in Campbell from 11:30 to 1:30. And it was just amazing. We had this great topic called Get More Yeses. It was really cool. It was just a really great event. Now, I just told you that, right? And, but okay, that's great. Well, Jose, it's so great that you enjoyed that event. It doesn't feel, right, like you're going to do anything with that information. I'm just giving you information. So the difference between information and invitation is that you actually make an ask, right? You actually ask them, hey, I was thinking about you, personal, right? I was thinking about you because you said that you're committed to getting more yeses in the next 30 days than ever before. Oh, great. It's funny you said that, because I just went to this event with Promoter Business. It's called Get More Yeses. It was just awesome. And if, they put on this great event, I can't even imagine what next month's topic's going to be. It's going to be so cool. I would love it. If you come with me, can I count you in? Totally different. Do you see the difference between information versus invitation. And the most simple way that you can do it is, once again, just simple phrase at the end of it is, can I count you in? Okay. Could forever revolutionize you going from chasing people to just getting a feel of where they're really at, right? That's the other thing. Well, I told her about it. Well, what did she say? Oh, she didn't say anything. You know, you want to go from uncertainty to, you know, to knowing where you stand with people. Ask that a lot more. Okay, so it's always more fun with friends. Can I count you in? Okay, number 13, 2 more ways, baby. And this is really important. And then we're going to wrap up. We're going to wrap up this training. Is number 13 is follow up with everybody. Follow up with everybody. We talked about this at our 4th Wednesday roundtable about, you know, let's pretend you're inviting people to a PHB event, or, you know, let's pretend in your head, pick the most important thing you want to say, you know, you want people to do in the next 30 days, right? And then the question is, what are you going to do when people say yes, no, maybe, or give you no response, right? What are you going to do when they say yes, no, maybe, or give you no response at all? And, you know, for a lot of people, you'd be surprised, or probably not surprised, that a lot of times people have no strategy. They just kind of do whatever comes up. Sometimes they do it this way. Sometimes they get back to these people. Sometimes they don't. When you don't have a strategy, you don't have a system. And if you don't have a system, you can't make it into a habit. And then it's inconsistent activity and inconsistent results. Say it with me: inconsistent activity, inconsistent results. And so something personally that has transformed my ability to get yeses is to be more strategic about what I'm doing for different common cases. This is not new, right? Like people saying yes, no, maybe, or no response. Write that down. Yes, no, maybe, or no response. This is like, we need to be prepared for this. It's not shocking when any of those outcomes happen, right? So, you know, we, as opposed to just going, you know, just seeing what happens, just you yourself thinking through each of those cases. And when I say follow up, when I said follow up with everybody, when I was talking about that, I mean, what's interesting is some people were saying, well, you know, not everybody's worth my time, and I'm just going to follow up with people that said, you know, they're on the fence or they haven't got back to me. And that's kind of the norm, right? Like a lot of people are doing that. But I would say, if you really want to get more yeses, it's important not just to follow up with people on the fence. It's important to follow up with all those different scenarios and know what you're doing with them. Because one, people that say yes, I can't even tell you how many people have said yes to me. There's a difference between saying yes and doing yes. 2 totally different worlds, saying yes versus doing yes. Oh, do you want to be part of my marketing training program? Oh, yes, Joyce. Oh, yes, that sounds awesome. Well, you know, I don't believe it until you actually sign up. You turn in a form, you know, process your application online, because there's a difference between saying and doing, right? So that's a big missing. It was something I learned the hard way when I first started in business. Is I assumed, you know, that when you said yes, you actually meant yes, and you were going to take an action consistent with that. And that's not true. Like many people, they get, you know, and maybe they have a good intention, but they get distracted by life. They might forget to sign up, or they might just be like, well, I was so excited when I talked to Joyce, but now there's so many other things, right? Like, and, you know, and you know, unintentionally, they're testing you too, to see like, will she even notice that I didn't sign up, right? Like she actually cared about me. She probably would have like followed up with me. So I have this rule that if they don't know, they won't go. And when I say that, what I mean is if they don't know you care about them, even if they said yes, it's unlikely. It definitely lowers the likelihood that they're going to go. If they don't know, they don't go. And so it's so important to follow up with your yeses, you know, especially if they're first timers. A lot of people in our community have meetup groups, right? for example. And you'll get people, years ago, I was like one of the first people on Meetup. Years ago, people took RSVPing very seriously. If they RSVP'd on something, they meant it. They were like, hey, I am committing publicly to going to this event. And nowadays, people are in like 20 different Meetup groups. And they forget that they sign up for things and they're not accountable for signing up. And if they've never gone to a group before, they're not attached to it and they don't think anyone will miss them. And so just taking that extra step to be like, hey, I notice you. I notice that you haven't come before. Just, hey, I could, support you when you get there, introduce you to people. It can make a huge difference on the number of people that go from being a yes on Meetup or on paper, I'm just giving Meetup as an example, to, people that are real at your events. You also want to follow up with your nose. That's the thing too. I mean, the woman I told you about with the shake company, right? She said, oh, okay, well, it sounds to me like you're a no. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye. Like, oh my gosh. I mean, I get like you don't want to be aggressive and on top of people, but there's a difference between not being on top of people and letting them be to the point that like they feel like you actually don't want anything to do with them. Like there is a huge difference. So something that I would say has made the difference is have people that have said no to me eventually come to PHP? Yes, they have. Because I didn't just let it go in terms of the relationship. I might have let go them coming to the event or not being the right time, but I didn't let go of the relationship in general. Now, I didn't make it as a priority compared to people that were yeses or on the fence or almost yeses or however you classify it. But I also didn't put myself in the situation like, well, if you don't get what I'm doing, there's lots of people out there, if you don't get what I'm doing, then forget about you. I don't know how that works. I'm personally not a fan of that. That has never worked for me. I think it's important you pay attention to how you're ending things with a no. Okay, well, that's, I get it. You're really busy right now. It sounds like networking events aren't, coming to a live event isn't the right fit for you right now. In the future, let me know if your schedule clears up and I'd love to still connect with you. Or, I know networking's not right, but you still wanted to learn about marketing and sales training. I wrote this great quiz called, find out what your promotion quotient is based on, how you're promoting your business and what stage of business you're in. I actually really did this. And, maybe you want to look at that, in the meantime, since you can't come to live events. So I countered, right? Like, so that's something too, just because they say no to one thing doesn't mean you can't still give them other options. And then if they're like, well, I'm just not interested at all, then of course, then they're shutting that relationship down. But you don't always have to be the one to initiate the shutdown. Does that make sense? So it's different. And then of course, you're going to follow up with people on the fence. The people that are on the fence are the most important people to stand for your brand on, right? And then the no responses. And once again, when you use one of my favorite phrases, can I count you in? It will really help you cut down on those no responses. And the other thing is you don't have to take everything so seriously. One of my favorite things my mom has always taught me, she was in Mary Kay Cosmetics 17 years, learned a lot from my mother, is, take it light, be all right, build personal relationships. It doesn't have to be like you're some, robot company just responding in a typical way to everybody. Like you can be with people and, have your personality come out too and your responses so they feel like they're talking to somebody real. Like I've gone back to people before who, they said, oh, I don't know, I'm thinking about it. And I've said, okay, you have me in suspense. Wink. I'm kind of a wink person. You have me in suspense. Can you tell me your answer? I'm crossing my fingers that you're going to come. I would love it if you did. There's so many people I want to introduce you to. Right? Like, and so me just keeping it light and not being so, serious template. Oh crap, I don't want to bug them. Right? Like it makes a difference, like even how you're perceiving it. Right? So think of them as a person, not like this, like over serious, like business contact, you need to sell, right? They're just a person. Have a conversation with them. Follow up, right? Okay, so I want you to take a moment and just make a note, of anything that came to you when I was talking about yes, no, maybe, or no response strategies. And then finally is number 14, which is play till the end. And I'm going to give everyone a shout out who stayed with me till the end of this, because it's all about playing till the end. It sounds super simple and obvious, but you'd be shocked by how many entrepreneurs and business leaders give up before the finish line. You think of, at a game, maybe like a race, right? You're challenging yourself, like we talked about with gamification in part 1. If you haven't heard it, go back and listen. But when you're playing this game, right? Why give up before the time runs out, right? Why not play full out all the way to the end? And so what I want you to do is start paying attention. Like first, I want you to start paying attention to how you are in the game, throughout the game that you're playing, whatever, sell this many by this time, okay? Or get this many to people to say yes by this time. So I want you to write down, how do you historically act, right? Like at the beginning, some people just run and they have a very strong sprint, right? Like they just start off right away as a sprint. But then as they go along in the middle, they get kind of tired. And then by the end, they've kind of, toppled out. Or, are you somebody that you look around, the gun goes off, you're like, oh, I don't know, I don't consider myself the fastest runner. I'm just going to kind of pace myself, see how things go, and you just run that steady pace the whole time? Or are you somebody who, you try really hard and you go at the beginning, and then you keep pushing yourself in the middle, even though you don't feel like it and you're in pain and your knees hurt. And then, you're just like, oh, forget it. I'm not going to win anyway. I'm just going to give up and lie down right here, right before the finish line, and never really cross it. And, have to ride back with the medics. I don't know. But really, that's what I want you to look at. So the first thing I want you to see is how you normally play, and be honest with yourself, right? Like if you can't see what you normally do, you can't up level, you can't improve what you can't measure or what you can't distinguish. A lot of times you're not getting yeses because you don't realize how you're operating. You're not identifying the low areas of performance. We all have them. We really do. All of us as humans have times that we're less likely to perform than other times. And the more we can proactively identify it, the more likely we can get back in the game quicker, because we know that's our reaction and we're not just automatically going to default mode of, that low performance mode and not realizing it and it dragging out, okay? So that's why I'm having you do this. It will make a huge difference, because you can identify the parts you're less likely to get yeses, then you could be more intentional about getting yeses during those low energy points as well, okay? And especially play till the end, right? Play till the end. I have got more yeses than other people. Sometimes they see like turtle in the hair, sometimes it is that. It's just like, you just have to keep going. I wasn't the front runner in different things, but the difference was I played to the end when they were like, oh, well, I've done enough. It's good enough. And I just kept going. I kept playing, and, you can beat people you didn't even think you were going to beat, or you didn't think you would be the highest performer. But just the fact you kept going there's a lesson in, the tortoise in the hare or whatever, really a business lesson for all of us to just keep going till the end. It's never too late to invite people until it's too late. Like literally when the deadline closes, or, if you add another chair, that person, or you add another person, they won't have a chair and they will have no food, and you can't deliver what you're promising. Then obviously you don't want that person to register, but you want to play to your end, right? Whatever your end is in registrations, or what you're doing, and people just, once again, go back to that, make up your own excuses. A lot of times people will be like making up excuses for people. Oh, I can't invite them, Jose. It's 2 days before. I totally don't get that. I mean, if I want to go to something, it sounds good. I'm going to go to it. Why? I'm going to rearrange my schedule. Why? Because I think it's worth it. I have done that so many times. I have rearranged my schedule so many times, last minute, even day of, to go to things because I thought they were beneficial. And I can tell you, the people that invite me know that secret. They know that they just play to the end. And that is one of the reasons they get people like me in the room. Maybe they're not going to get 500 more people from doing it, but, even if you got 10 more people, right? I'm just going to go with 10. Like just by playing to the end, that can make a difference. Who wouldn't want those more people in your room, right? So I really want you to do that. I also love this Mary Kay Ash quote, which is oldie but a goodie. So let me share that with you. One of my favorite Mary Kay Ash quotes for everyone listening who's leading a team. And the quote is, the speed of the leader is the speed of the gang, right? The speed of the leader is the speed of the gang. And so you, as the leader of your life, even if you're a solopreneur, as a role model to your industry, as a role model to your family, as a role model to future generations, you as a leader set the pace. You do. So if you're not playing to the end, then what message are you sending other people, right? So you want to do the things that you want your team to do, right? And not only do them, this is the other thing is with the public declarations, is make sure your team knows you're doing them. Like some of us, like for me, I do all these best practices. I have, at least 14 different ways to get more yeses in 30 days. One is to play to the end. Now, this has made a difference for me, but you know what? I didn't really start seeing more massive results until I actually shared this with other people who were teaming with me. Right? Because before it was like, oh yeah, well, if I just keep these tips to myself, then I'm the highest performer, which is great, for a while, but what am I doing? I'm stifling the overall organization's growth because I'm just keeping these secrets to me. And so, as leader, proactively be telling people what's working on your team so that, they can benefit too. And they see that you're using the things you're talking about. You're not just telling them to do things. Hey, you guys should do more. You should play to the end. No, like you can say, hey, it's 2 days before, I just invited 10 more people because I'm a big believer in play to the end. So let's all play to the end. See, that's totally different than me just mandating it. Right? Speed of and me sharing as a leader gives me more accountability, and it once again sets the tone for the team, as Mary Kay Ash said. That's what I get for having, mom and who did Mary Kay for years, right? Lots of Mary Kay Ash quotes. See, you have this huge effect on future generations, whether you realize it or not. A lot of times my mom probably had no idea that, years later I'd be using Mary Kay Ash as the main example. So yeah, you're a role model, whether you realize it or not. And I hope you do realize it. So now you can take responsibility for that in an empowering way. Okay, so I just want you to write down in that space, last thing to write down is, once again, how are you going to play to the end? I want you to pay attention to when is the deadline for your next big milestone in terms of getting more yeses in that one. How many areas? One area that's most important to you with yeses, because if you can do it in one area, you can translate that into multiple areas. And if you try to do too many yes things all at once using these strategies, it can be overwhelming. So just get really good at getting more yeses in one area using these strategies, and then it will become part of your lifestyle and you can transfer them into other places. So yeah, so write down in the space, one, how do you usually perform in the game that you play, right? That we talked about that. Where are your highest areas of performance in the race? Where do you start slowing down, and where do you pick back up, or do you pick back up? So you can start thinking about that. And then two, I want you to concretely commit to how you're going to play in the game, from here on out, especially at the end. Are you going to play right up till 2 hours before? Are you going to play till the day before? Like, are you going to play up to the end? Okay, so, it's your world. You have to do what feels right for you. But whatever you do, play to win. Have fun and play to win, right? If we want more women in the world to win, who has to be a role model of winning? Us, right? So step into it, have fun, collaborate, and win, win, win. All right, with that, I'm gonna stop our training. I'm just gonna do a last recap. So let me just do one last recap on what we covered in part 2. So in part 2, we talked about increasing your accountability, right? Finding the best ways to make sure that you are in your head playing your billion-dollar game and making sure you don't forget it, right? You won't get it if you forget it. We talked about leveraging your team, and I highly recommend, if you aren't currently participating in our High Powered Connectors program, that could be the thing that makes the biggest difference in you getting yeses easier, because it's not just about you getting yeses, it's about having other people refer people to you, help you get on more stages, create new products together, double your audiences by, aligning with each other and so forth. So definitely check out our High Powered Connectors program. Be a stand for your brand, right? So what's worth standing for, especially when people are on the fence. Hand out all your marketing materials, not just some of them, because the more people see it, the more they remember you, the more they are to act on it, and treat them like gold, right? Even especially your business cards. And remember, it's not that hard to pass it out. Make it easy on yourself. Just natural questions that are obvious is how you want to transition. Remember FOMO, fear of missing out. Tell people, the people that are going and the types of people that they would want to meet. So, figure out the biggest reason why people would feel like they're missing out and play that up. Repeat my 2 phrases, my favorite phrases, which are, let me see if you remember them. Feel free to write them in comments. One is, it's always more fun with friends, and can I count you in, right? Can I count you in? Follow up with everyone. Make sure you have a strategy for yes, no's, maybe, and no responses, right? And follow up with those yeses. They're not a yes until they actually sign up, right? Difference between saying and doing. And then finally, play till the end. Play to the end. Give it your all. And, if the time's still going, I don't know why you wouldn't continue running or get to that finish line, so pay attention. Pay attention to when you are the biggest limiting factor and what you're out to accomplish with yeses. So overall, I'm so excited that I was able to share my last decade with you and just 2 powerful trainings. Please give me feedback on what you thought of this. If you have questions, please let me know. I can also do other trainings in the future. Actually, how we even pick the trainings we do are based on feedback that we get from the community. So we can put on these marketing and sales trainings that aren't just relevant to what I think is relevant, but what you think is relevant, right? Not just things I'm interested in, but what the community is most interested in. And if you're not getting the value you want, tell us what other value you want, right? Like, we're here for you. Other communities are not doing this. Like, we genuinely care and are intentionally creating curriculum for you that you have told us you've wanted. So tell us more and we'll give you more. Tell us more and we'll give you more. All right. So with that said, I look forward to seeing you at the next PHB event, right? And remember, it's always more fun with friends. So invite some friends you can lock arms with via, potential promotion partners in our High Powered Connectors program, right? Let's all keep bringing the most powerful people to PHB, and we will have this totally winning community, which will help you win and get yeses quicker. So keep us informed. Remember to stay in action, ongoing action, right? Go from passion to action. Passion to action, right? By not just listening to this training, but really getting on our Rock Your Week calls, consistently being on our end of the month call coming up tomorrow at 12:30, and staying in the game, right? That's a part of being accountable, not just getting this and forgetting this, but making it into a lifestyle, right? Making these 14 ways into a lifestyle for yourself, for your team, and for years to come. So keep promoting yourself, your business, and each other. Say it with me now, online, offline, all the time. Bye, everybody. Mwah. Love y'all.